Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gayside Stories, where the gay shit goes. I am your host, Trilificent. Thank you so much for joining me for another week. As a quick reminder, you guys can listen to this show if you're not already on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, whichever podcast app you use, such as Overcast or Castbox, or you can go to GaysideStories.com/shows and listen to this show and all of the shows there. For hashtagging, remember to use the hashtag GaysidePod. That is the official hashtag of the show, and it helps facilitate conversation if you have something to say or if you just want to show people what you're listening to. And also use the hashtag Pods by QPOC. That's PODSBYQPOC. And that's a hashtag, as a reminder, that I created to help people promote and navigate to queer podcasts of color. Send in any gay side mail, so letters, compliments, show topic ideas, stories, stuff that you want to put out there in the universe. You can send all of that to GaysideStories@gmail.com. Whatever it is, send it in. And I don't have much. I have a very special guest that I was excited to record with. And the topic is, I think, important, especially around the holidays. So let's get into it. All right, so I have a very illustrious guest with me this week.
Yeah, illustrious.
Yes, I have one of the podcast fairy godmothers. We have nicju from What's the Tea?
Hi.
What's the tea?
The tea is my California body still doesn't know what to do with winter, and I'm ashy.
Same, except Texas. There's an additional layer of confusion because it's like freezing, and I'm like, but this is Houston.
Yeah, why y'all got a freeze warning in Houston?
Yeah, you just never know what you're gonna get. Life is like a box of chocolates. You just never know what you're gonna get. Like, it's so unpredictable. Whenever people ask me about fall and winter here, I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't know. Some years it's hot as hell, all the way through Christmas and beyond. You can wear shorts. Some years it's cold. Some years it's just like, yeah, it's okay, a light jacket. And this year it's like, how about cold? I'm just like, but it's November. That's not what's supposed to happen.
I mean, in the Bay Area, you can count on it to be warm until Thanksgiving most years.
Yeah, no. You just never know. The only thing you can count on here in Houston is that you will cook during the summer.
Right. Yes.
And maybe the spring if we unlucky. We'll have a long time to cook. Slow simmer.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm a huge fan of the show.
Thank you for joining. I also too am a huge fan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So speaking of, why don't you tell my listeners a little bit about What's the Tea in case they are rock dwellers and they are unfamiliar.
What's the Tea is a podcast that I co-host with my best friend Reggie, R to the Edgy.
Hey, Reggie.
Hey, Reggie. And basically, we are just two best friends that share a lot of commonalities, and we just get on the microphone and talk. Sometimes we cover movies, music, TV. Lately, we've been trying to talk pop culture and stay out the current news cycle. So we're talking about music a bunch lately.
Smart, because you know what? We don't need to open that door.
Yeah, no, it's depressing. It's too much. So we just try to provide a little space for people to laugh and have a little kiki or whatever.
Yeah. And y'all are successful. Have been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah, we just had our 5-year anniversary. We just put out our 250th numbered show, but we've done a whole bunch of other ones that didn't have numbers. We also have our Patreon. So yeah, check us out. We're on all the platforms. What's the Tea? TEA. Our show was named before the RuPaul show, and they did not Google to see that somebody already had the name, but we've already been going for like 2 years, so we weren't changing ours.
Well, and nor should you. Y'all were there first.
Right. So TEA, that's us.
Cool. I'll put all of that in the show notes so people can find you guys, go to y'all's website and all of that good stuff.
Yes.
So let's play a game so people can find out a little bit more about you and consequently about me.
Yes.
So let's slide on to the queer query. First question. What is your favorite holiday dish? I feel like I've asked this before, but since we are in holiday time, it's a fitting question.
It's a very fitting question. I'm a huge fan of dressing. I like I like
Oh,
cornbread and rice dressing.
wait, what's rice dressing?
So dirty rice, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But those are my jam.
Okay, I know that must be some regional shit because I'm like, we just call it dirty rice
Yeah,
here.
it's just either way. Because my family, they be liking to differentiate. They wanna make sure we know somebody is bringing the rice dressing and somebody is bringing the dressing. But it is basic. It is absolutely just dirty rice.
Got it, got it, got it. So since you brought up dressing, I want your opinion. This is a side question.
Uh-huh.
The debate on the difference between stuffing and dressing.
Right. So I thought stuffing was a white people thing because I didn't know if I had ever had it or not. But my very like limited opinion based off of the culinary knowledge that I have obtained as an adult, stuffing is what's in the bird, dressing is a side.
I recently saw that and I was like, okay, that makes sense. Although I haven't come across too many even white people that make it in the bird. I always thought it was just a difference of
The bread.
the bread. Yeah.
Me too.
Like,
That's what I thought at first too.
yeah, dressing is cornbread based and
Mhm.
stuffing is bread based, like French bread or whatever.
Right.
Whenever they cut up French bread, the baguettes.
I've never had stuffing, and the only time I've ever even seen somebody make it, it was like that rice-a-roni or whatever, and it just doesn't look appetizing to me.
Oh, like that stovetop?
Yeah, yeah, not rice-a-roni.
Which, no love to them because they really have these commercials and they're like, it's not Thanksgiving without stovetop. And I'm like, I'm
Oh,
pretty sure it is, sis. I'm pretty sure it is.
'cause I ain't never had this.
I've had it before and I'm just like, so it's lightly seasoned breadcrumbs. Like,
Right.
what?
Nothing
This
about
is,
it is appealing to me
it's not, it does not slap.
at
Does
all.
not slap.
At all.
I would say my favorite holiday dishes too. So I'm always here for the homemade baked mac and cheese,
Yes, God.
and I'm always here for the gumbo because
I
my
was gonna
family,
say gumbo, but I didn't know other people family did gumbo for holidays.
yeah, we always do gumbo for Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yeah.
Yeah. Like growing up, that was all we did. My stepfather would fry turkey, so we would have fried turkey and we would have gumbo.
Yeah, that's exactly how we do it. Unless we go to the big family gathering and do the potluck thing.
Oh no, we don't do that. And then for Christmas would be when my mom would go all out, and then so I was always looking forward to Christmas because that's like literally that was the only time of year she would make the baked mac and cheese.
Wow. A good mac and cheese is expensive.
Listen, shout out to the boo Risha because I did make her mac and cheese recipe one year, but that shit was expensive. I was like,
Them cheeses.
the cheeses.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my goodness. So that made me think about like, how much money do y'all spend to feed the whole fam? Turkeys and
Exactly.
hams and gumbo.
Exactly.
Gumbo is expensive to make.
Listen, especially if it wasn't a good crab season, you're gonna be paying a grip for some crab.
Yeah, yeah. Like to the point where like that's how I would know that the crab was too expensive. If we have gumbo and there's no crab in it, I'm like, well, the crab was too expensive.
We don't make gumbo unless we got crab because me and my
No,
brother would be like, no, we're not.
no, we have variants on the gumbo.
Yeah, you'll do like a seafood version and a
No,
not.
no, no. It's just usually, actually, it's just either got crab or don't.
Yeah,
But the
or okra. Ooh, a good okra. I'm not a huge okra person, but it's something about it in gumbo that makes me
yeah, it depends on who makes it because not everybody knows how to make gumbo with the okra in it.
right. So I like I've seen people who do a roux but also okra, and then I've seen people who they don't use a roux when they're making an okra gumbo, which is I don't know how they do
I
it.
don't know how that works. And
Oh,
I don't know anything about cooking. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I just have never had roux-less gumbo.
I haven't either. But apparently I heard an argument over a table somewhere about like what was the difference between a roux gumbo and an okra gumbo. I'm like, I thought all gumbo was a roux gumbo.
Yeah, like now whether or not okra is in the gumbo, that's a variant depending on who makes it in my family, but the roux is like a non-negotiable.
I don't know. Maybe I
I don't know.
conversation incorrect. I don't talk when
Listen.
grown people be talking, especially about stuff I don't know.
But yeah, so those are my favorite holiday dishes. I'm always here for the baked mac and cheese, specifically the kind my mom makes. Not that the rest of my family doesn't make good, but there's just something about my mom's. One day I'm gonna break the silent ice between us and be like, so about that mac and cheese, girl, what is it exactly that you be doing? Because I know there's like a evaporated milk situation, and like she does a lot. I see why she only makes it once a year. Because I'd be like, girl, you still making this mac and cheese?
Reese's recipe calls for a roux as well, right?
Yeah. Was it a roux? No, I don't know if it was a roux. It may have just been the bechamel sauce. Or does that count as a roux? See, I don't know nothing about cooking.
So I believe a roux is.
But no, I think because you have to make the roux to make the bechamel sauce.
Yeah,
I believe. It's been a long time since I made this. Yeah, you can do it's a light roux. It's been a long time, but
I want to try her recipe. I've been reading it for years. I just have never.
It was pretty good. Like that was a special year, and I was like, you know what? I got a little jangle in my coin purse.
Yes.
And I was glad that I had a little extra because that cheese, I was like, ooh.
The cheese will get you.
It was shit. That was all. I was like, oh, I'm spending twice the amount. Like the rest of the ingredients equals the amount that I paid just for the cheese, if not more. But it turned out really good, and I had a whole pan of it to my. Let me tell you something. I was in hog heaven. I was like, oh my god. You remember that episode of Martin when he was trying not to eat that food and had that gravy and shit on that table? That was me. I was like,
about it.
That mac and cheese was so fucking good. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Because my fat ass will sit here and talk about food for the whole show.
Same.
So, switching gears, what is your current pet peeve?
So currently, right now, today, Mercury is not in retrograde, but it's coming. But I don't know what's been going on for the past month or whatever. People are communicating very poorly.
Ooh.
And people are responding to me as if I'm stupid off the rip. And my patience is so thin with it. Like, just read and respond.
So my pet peeve is similar. My current pet peeve, because I'm trying to sell some stuff, and I have ads in the Facebook marketplace. And the lack of reading has been grating my nerves to shreds, because
I wrote it right there for you to read it. Just read it.
A whole description, and the way that they make you do it, depending on what you're selling, you have to answer all these other questions. What's the manufacturer and the dimensions, and then you do a description and all this. I do all of this. I write everything in there, all of the questions that you could possibly ask about whatever it is that I'm selling, the area that I live in. But because Facebook is one of those things trying to force interaction, they make it. And because I had to go researching, because I was just curious as to why people were hitting me up the way that they were. You click on an item in the marketplace and it shows you like the picture and a little bit, and then the contact button is like right there, and you have to scroll to get to the description. And I'm like, why wouldn't you put the description right under the picture and make people scroll in order to contact?
Right.
Like, these are strangers. You trying to foster all of this interaction between strangers, and so they hit the button and it sends an automatic message like, I guess you can pick, but good evening, is this still available? Good afternoon, is this still available?
Right.
Then they turn around and they ask you questions that are in the description, and I'm just like, I'm trying not to be rude, because, I don't want to put that out there, but I'm just like,
can you read?
so you just refuse to read. And then I had one, let me tell you something. I think I talked about this on a previous episode. I had one person catch an attitude with me, and I was like, I had to catch myself because they kind of took a stance of, they asked me a question about my location, and I'm like, it's in the description,
right?
And they took the attitude of, well, you trying to sell it, right? And I'm like, obviously, why else would we be speaking? And they're like, okay, then. And I'm like, wait a minute, who the hell you getting an attitude with, bitch?
Right. Okay, then my ass.
Right. I was like, you know what? I would rather not sell it to you, you raggedy bitch.
Ooh, yeah.
I'll throw it in the trash before I sell it to you.
That's not it. That's not good. No.
That really grated my nerve. But yeah, that's been my current pet peeve. Like people asking me the same. And the other thing about that is they hit you up, they ask you if it's available, you say yes, and then they don't say anything else. And it's like, why are you wasting everybody's time? Woosah or whatever. So you have a question, so let's hear it.
I do. And I am making a lot of assumptions with this question.
Okay.
But I'll ask you. So I'm a huge fan of shows like Married at First Sight and The Bachelor and X, Y, and Z. Do you, as a member of the LGBTQ community, feel offended by the way, like the frivolity with which marriage is handled on stuff like that?
No, because I'm only offended if it's weaponized. I guess, if that makes sense. Like, people gonna do what they want to do, and we know that most people don't really have a real respect for marriage, especially in those instances. But when it is kind of thrown in our faces, or when it was before marriage equality passed, when it was thrown in our faces, like, well, that's why y'all are not, your relationships are not valid because you can't get married or something like that. And it's like, okay, so you throwing it in our face that we can't get married because people like you have made it so that we can't get married, only for you to turn around and do stuff like 90 Day Fiance. That was offensive to me. But now that marriage equality is a thing in the United States, who knows how long it'll be a thing given the way things are going. I'm not as messed with, because now we can go and be as frivolous with marriage as we want to, which shout out to y'all being frivolous with marriage, because for the average everyday person, that shit ain't no joke. Divorce is expensive. And if you have a marriage that lasted some time and then you decide, okay, this ain't it, splitting assets and all that can be a nightmare. But overall, I'm not really offended by it, because people's frivolous marriages, that doesn't affect me. It's only when we could not get married and people would use that against us.
And that's the thing too, is like the fight was so hard for marriage equality. And even now today, in some places, people are still fighting to get their marriage licenses and all that.
Right. Because people are so bigoted that they have no problem just flat out breaking the law if it means that I get to deny you something that I don't feel like you should have. And it's like,
right. No, my assumptions were that you even cared about marriage, because I know I don't.
Oh, I mean, no, I don't care about marriage as a whole. Like, I don't really care about marriage as a cast and crew.
Right.
But as far as the bigger picture, I do know about that. I do care about that, because I don't mind it. Like, shout out to other people, they want to get married for whatever reason, and that do what you do.
Yeah, but I don't think it's for me.
But for me, and I've said this before, like, it has to be something spectacular. Not the wedding, but like the person has to be like, you have a lot of work to do. And I hate to put that out there. Maybe I will change. Maybe something will soften my cold heart. But for now, it's like that individual has a lot of work to do to convince me
Right.
that they are even worth the damn, let alone worth getting married to.
Right. Like me and you today, as we are today, great. But I'm promising you the rest of my life that we gonna be like this. I can't do it.
Or promising the rest of my life that I am willing to do what it takes to make this work.
With
I don't
only
know.
you, with just you, just you.
With just you. And even then it might be so about this whole relationship marriage thing. We might traditional may not be the route
I
for
don't think it's the
us.
wave. I don't think it's the wave. Not
You
for
know.
me.
And don't even think about mentioning no children because that that's the quickest way for me to be like, no.
Do you think that marriage equality has changed the way that you like date or pursue relationships?
Not at all.
Okay,
Because
because you don't care
listen,
about getting married. You're like me.
here's the thing about that. Gay niggas were trash before they could get married legally, and they are trash after. So,
Oh
you know,
no.
it really makes no difference to me. Like y'all were trash before. I wasn't trying to get married, even if I could have gotten married. And now that I can get married, listen, the only way at this point that I feel I could see myself getting married is if I had like a 10-year plan with a friend.
Right.
And I would be like,
let's get this tax break.
the legality of it. You know, it don't have nothing to do with love. I mean, if we happen to be attracted to each other and sleep with each other every now and then, that's cool.
Wonderful.
If not, you know, like let's get a house with 2 master bedrooms. You do your thing downstairs, I do mine upstairs. You know what I'm saying? We can get together and have yeah, we can have dinner together if you want. Let's make sure that these bills are paid because listen, fuck half on a baby, half on a car note.
On a mortgage.
Half on a mortgage. Okay, half on a light bill. That's what I'm about.
Okay.
The rest of it, like the feelings and all of that stuff, we can work that stuff out. The legality of it, okay? The money, okay? The insurance. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, a business deal.
Okay, I'm about business. Okay, I am not one of those people who has stars and rainbows in my eyes when it comes to marriage. Is a business transaction. Let us handle business.
The fact that our credit is gonna merge is enough for me to be like, wait a minute.
Yep. And it takes a lot. You mentioned credit, and this made me okay. Story time, and then we'll move on. I don't know if I talked about this on the show before, but this is when I was heavy into the investigation discovery. I had to kind of take a break because that shit is dark.
Oh yeah, I couldn't do it.
But I remember watching, was it Deadly Women? I think it was Deadly Women. And this woman, she had worked and done whatever she had done, and she paid her house off completely. And she was still relatively young. I want to say in her 40s. She gets married to this guy. They have a kid or whatever. And so she is wanting to buy another house as like an investment property.
As you do.
Because her house was paid off.
Mm-hmm.
Unbeknownst to her, he had a crazy amount of debt and he had a gambling problem.
Oh, see, no.
And so he had gambled away like any kind of chance for them to do that without telling her. Long story short, that escalated into her killing him and being on Deadly Women because
Mama wasn't playing behind her credit.
Because in order to cope with the lifestyle shift that they had to take because of his gambling and his debt, she ended up getting like a, what's it called? Like an addiction, a shopping addiction.
Oh my God.
And so she was trying to run like a little QVC type deal out of her home.
What?
But the problem is she kept wanting to keep the stuff that she was supposed to be selling.
Oh my God. So she was getting high off her own.
Right.
Supply.
So she was turning into a hoarder.
Oh, Jesus.
And she had all these like little cat figurines that she was obsessed with. And she would have a friend over. I remember this scene. And the friend was like, "Hey, we supposed to be selling that?" And she was like, "Oh, no, not these." And the friend was like, "Well, that's everything, girl. What are we selling if you keep it everything?" So, yeah, but in order to, because you know how this this weird mindset that people have, the psychotic mindset, I should say, of the only way for me to get out of my situation is to kill my significant other for the insurance money.
Like, where? How?
I don't know. I don't know how taking the risk of going to jail for the rest of your life or worse instead of just getting a second job or figuring out a way something. But yeah, so she ended up so when you mentioned merging credit, that made me think about that. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I would have been pissed, but I'm pretty sure I would have just divorced him and been like, your debt is your debt. I'm not taking that shit on.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially if she paid off all her shit, like she's good with money. I'd have been like, I'll be fine. You know, it'll cost me a couple $1,000s to get this divorce, but I'll be fine. You can be stuck with tens of thousands of dollars of debt on your own.
On your own.
And you deserve it because you sat up there and you lied about it. Can you imagine? Ooh, anyway, let me not get my blood pressure because I just can't imagine marrying a motherfucker and then it's like, surprise, debt and gambling problem.
Ooh, that's what happened to old boy on Married at First Sight this last season. He all off in love with her and she got tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. And he was like, okay, fine. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, not unless money was not a thing to me.
Apparently it wasn't because he was way too like, oh, yeah, sure.
Must be nice because for the average broke ass motherfucker such as myself,
right? No, he struggled with it a little bit, but not the way that like I would have.
Yeah, like I'm struggling with my own debt. I damn sure can't take on nobody else's.
Do not need yours.
Love be damned. I don't love that much.
Love don't pay these here bills.
Okay, clearly love don't pay these bills, and neither were you. So I'm good, love.
Enjoy
or not. It's really up to you. You may not be able to afford to enjoy. That's not my problem. Well, okay, that's gonna wrap up the queer query and the stories and tangents. So let's get into the main topic. I came across this article and it says 8 warning signs you're mentally and emotionally exhausted.
Yes.
And number one, it spoke to me because yes. But number two, because I realized that there are so many of us amongst my acquaintance and just people that I observe online that are exhausted but don't even realize it. And the third reason, and I'm glad that the timing lined up the way that it did for us to talk about this, is because I think it's important to note around the holidays because people start running ragged, especially you have travel or you're trying to get ready to host family or you're just trying to fortify yourself mentally, emotionally, whatever, to be able to deal with family that you haven't seen in a while. So I thought that this would be very important to cover at this time.
Yes.
And who better than with you? That's not to say that I feel like you're exhausted, but
I am though.
Just, as a listener of the show and a mutual follower, like I know that this year has been difficult for you.
Yes.
So I thought it was kind of appropriate to discuss this and let's just see where we are with things.
Yes.
So the first sign is you are easily irritated. And this is me with a capital I. It says, as days go by, you feel hopeless. The inability and the lack of power make you feel more and more irritated. You should be out there making the best of it, yet you feel much safer avoiding any possible contact with the outside world. True.
All true. And all true. Because I'm an extrovert, so I know like this past weekend, I didn't leave my house except to go get grocery. And I was like, no, I just can't. I don't want to be around people. I can't.
Yeah. One of the main ways I always know that I am irritated, and that means I must be either hungry or like bone tired, and I don't realize either, is when I'm driving and every little thing irritates me. And I get to the point where I'm like, if I have stops to make, I'd be like, fuck it, I'm not doing it because I have got to get out of this car before I hurt someone or myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get like that, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I need to go home and I need to eat, or I need to sleep or rest, whatever it is but that's usually a clear indication for me that something is off, whether, like I said, whether it's I'm tired or something else. But when my irritability is off the scales like that, whew,
That's how you know.
that's how I know. Like, I know myself well enough to be like, because I'm not usually that irritable. Like, things get on my nerves, yes, but to the point where I'm like, I will follow you to your house and I will drive through your home. That's when I'm like, might be a little equilibrium, might be a little off.
The first thing I do is check my little period calendar to make sure I'm not PMSing.
Well, see, at least you have that. For me, it's just like, what is your problem? You don't have any excuse. It says, don't beat yourself up. We've all been there. I know it sucks, but instead of recklessly wasting your time, spend this time off to work on yourself.
Mm.
I guess I would just say get some damn rest. Like, you can't work on yourself if you exhausted. And if you irritated, all you're gonna do is irritate yourself with yourself.
Right.
So my advice would be to just rest.
You know you tired when you irritated with yourself.
Listen. And that'd be the main time I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna take this nap. Because you know how you get to that funk and you're like, I can't do anything right. Like, literally everything goes wrong. I try to walk to the kitchen and shit falling off the counter that ain't never moved in 7 years.
Listen.
And I done stubbed my big toe and I done dropped stuff. I done spilled water on the floor. I'd be like, let me put myself away.
Just go lay down. Put myself down for a nap.
Yeah, that's what I do. So number 2 says your motivation levels are lower than ever. So my wig is a little bit askew already.
Look.
It says you feel like you're incapable of getting the work done. You struggle to find the motivation you need. The goals that once stimulated you to work hard are not enough.
Wow.
And yes.
All of it.
All of the above. And I've struggled with my motivation for a while. I've talked about this before. I have spoken with a therapist about it before. And it's hard. And some things get done and some things don't. Like, I feel like I have gotten to the point where I have this obligation to the show. So the show gets done methodically, sometimes without me even thinking about it too much. And even then, when it was too much for me, when I didn't have any motivation, I took a break.
Yeah.
And it was funny because me giving myself permission to take the break actually motivated me more than anything else. So while I was supposed to be on break, I was working on the show. I just wasn't recording and putting it out, but I was working on notes and ideas and stuff. And I thought it was so curious, like, just giving myself permission gave me the motivation that I had been missing. I guess because it started to feel like such a chore to get it done and to find the topic and find the guest. And I was just burned out.
And this is supposed to be like your fun thing. This is your passion.
Right. This is like my little passion hobby, because it's a hobby. I don't make money from this. I do it because it's fun. It's cathartic to a degree, depending on what I'm talking about. Right. And I feel like it needs to be done. My voice needs to be out there with everybody else's, but motivation in other areas, whoo!
Yeah.
Listen, let me tell you, with work, the ultimate struggle, because it's like, I know I need this money, but I do not like y'all.
And the little 3:00 slump, because sometimes I have problems getting to bed. And right around 2:30, 3:00, when I'm physically tired, on top of everything else that I go through trying to be at work, I'm like done for.
Yeah. Mine is usually right after lunch. So depending on what time I eat lunch. So that's why a lot of times, just knowing myself well enough, I try to eat lunch later than normal. So I'm like, well, let me pack some extra snacks so that I don't have to take lunch until like 12:30 or 1, and then I can leave at 3 or, whatever my schedule is. But I've definitely have been here when it's like, even when it's like, I want to do this, but I have no motivation. I want to read this book. I bought this book. I have spent my coin on it, and I have no motivation to do it. I want to clean up. I like a clean house. I have no motivation. My house looks like a nightmare. It definitely looks like it could be featured in one of the Saw movies. It's definitely, would you like to play a game ass abode? And I just don't have that motivation that I feel like I should have. And that's with a lot of stuff, like just personally, like, so it's been hard to try to figure out how to siphon some of the motivation that I have been applying to the show to other parts of my life.
Yeah, that's real. And I suffer from procrastination.
Oh, that's my good Judy.
Look, we go back.
We know each other quite well.
And I know, like, whenever my house is not picked up, it's a reflection of my mental health. If it's stuff everywhere, I got something going on.
Yeah. Current situation, because I'm looking around like,
I just picked up over the weekend. I'm like, we're not doing this. This is not what we're gonna do.
I'm looking around like, yeah, my house looks as scattered as my brain has been for the past few weeks.
But it's conditional. I think if you clear the space around you, you literally will clear the space around.
Yeah. We're going to give it a try. So it says, if this is your case, you need to give it a rest. Don't push yourself too hard. Inspiration is everywhere around us, and it will strike you when you least expect it. I would say there's some truth in that.
Yeah, I like that.
I've definitely gotten some inspiration just kind of out of nowhere, whether it's listening to another podcast or scrolling Instagram or Twitter. And I'm like, I has an idea.
Mm-hmm.
The next one says, you are experiencing anxiety attacks more than usual. As a result of your overexhaustion, you feel more and more stressed than usual. Anxiety attacks are becoming a daily routine. I would say, I don't know if I've had too much experience with anxiety attacks. I do struggle with anxiety issues every now and then, but it's usually when it's something major, like if I have a major decision to make or something along those lines. But I don't think I suffer from everyday anxiety issues.
No, and even in the midst of everything that I'm going through right now, I don't have daily anxiety attacks. It's been a long time, actually. Yeah. If at all, throughout this whole process since the summertime.
Yeah. But I can see how this would be plausible. Like if I'm exhausted, then everything, it makes me anxious because I don't have the energy to process things the way I normally would, if that makes sense. At least that's my thinking. I could be off on that. So if you deal with anxiety, and feel free to let us know what you think about this one. It says, please don't be afraid. Try to find a way to center yourself in order to heal your wounds. Spend more time alone and figure out what you need in life. I wonder about that because sometimes, like, I have a friend that deals with anxiety real bad, and sometimes I wonder if him being alone is just another trigger for his anxiety versus having people around him.
Maybe
that could be just an individual type thing. So the next one says, you have trouble sleeping. Ooh.
Come on down my street.
Yeah.
Come on up.
It says, you often feel like you are out of place. The overwhelming feeling of exhaustion makes it harder for you to calm your thoughts and fall asleep. And insomnia becomes just another thing on the list. So I have two thoughts on this, because I've been on this end of the spectrum where I am so tired that I don't have the energy to turn my brain off.
Yes.
And it does make it difficult to sleep. But I've also been on the other end where it's like I have problem turning my brain on and then I sleep too much.
Yes.
Yeah. Which that may be more depression than anything, but
yeah, I think that because I've not been diagnosed with depression, but it used to be kind of like a joke with everybody I knew how much I slept as a young person, like late teens to mid to late 20s. I'm like, I think a bitch was depressed because
Yeah.
you ain't tired like that. And I can tell now when I'm taking a depression nap, because when I take a normal nap, I wake up like, oh, I just took a nap. But when I'm deep, deep in a little something, when I wake up, I feel drunk and like
Yeah.
not well.
Yeah. It's hard to get started. It's hard to just do anything. You just feel groggy more so than normal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there. So number 5 says meaningless things upset you. This is my middle name.
Drag me.
It says because of your increased sensitivity, you
Drag
feel
me.
you feel much more intense than you used to.
Uh,
You get upset over trivial things that and then ooh. Okay, so we have some grammar issues here.
uh-oh.
You get upset over trivial things and the intense feelings bring tears to your eyes. So you just strumming my pain with your fingers? Is this what we're doing?
Singing my life with these words.
Because I have definitely been
Woo!
a good indication that I know that it goes back to number 1 that my irritability is off the charts, and meaning that there's something off with me is when I get unspeakably upset with inanimate objects.
Ready to cry.
Ready to fight.
Right. But that's a Gemini that should go hand in hand. If we crying, we finna fight.
True. That is not that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Tears of fury, bitch.
Yes.
Don't get it confused. Yeah, like I said, that's usually a good indication that I'm like, okay, I'm off because I'm in here cussing the Brita filter out.
Look.
For no good reason.
Like I turned it every way. It don't go in.
Yeah. Or just mad, or I'm cussing myself out because the Brita filter is empty, and it's like, why didn't your dumb ass fill it back up when you took the last drop of water? Like, you're so fucking stupid. And I'm like, okay, this is much.
Right.
Like, and so then I'm ready to get on the computer and write a letter to Brita like I am a white woman in America. And it's like, okay, but is Brita to blame or is it me?
Right.
Oh God. So yeah, I this is drag me to hell because this is definitely one of my big triggers. Like just the smallest, stupidest stuff just irritates me to no end.
But and it's good to have these like little check-ins because now I'm like, okay, am I exhausted? Do I need to rest? Do I need to isolate myself? Like, like I said, the first thing I do is check my period calendar because if it's about 7 to 10 days before it's time, then I'm like, oh, this is why. But
yeah, for me, I have to trace back to my first thing that I do is trace back. What have I eaten today?
Oh, because sometimes you could just be hangry.
Yeah. And a lot of times, especially when I call myself trying to get on my fitness kick, which that's a whole nother conversation about how many failed attempts.
Not today.
But that's been, I would say, probably about 60% of the time. If I look back, or if I was like, even if I'm not on my fitness kick, but I was just especially busy at work or something, I would look back and be like, what did I eat today? And I'd be like, no, I ate. And then I feel my body like responds. It's like, you ate, but you didn't eat.
No nutrients.
Or just not enough, you know what I'm saying? Trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna be cute and I'm gonna have my little salad. And it's like you have to ease into that kind of stuff.
You can't just eat lettuce and drink water all day.
Yeah, you can't go from Big Macs the day before to just lettuce. Some people can. I am not one of those people. I definitely have to do a gradual decrease because my body be like, so is this one of those like fight or flight situations? Like, do we need to fight in order to get more food? I don't understand what the problem is. And I'll be irritated. I'll be like, I be at work mad as hell, hungry. Like just the chime of the email, I'll be ready to punch somebody. Oh, God. It says, don't let yourself suffer. Take some time off and reconstruct your world. No matter how hard it is, it will all be worth it, I promise.
Mm.
Um, I would say just take a damn nap, but I don't know. That's just me.
Don't lay
Maybe an
down.
oversimplification.
Right.
I'm like, it works for children. So,
Go rest your nerves.
yeah, go rest your nerves, rest your body, rest your eyes, all of that good stuff. So, number 6 says, you feel dizzy and nauseous. One of the biggest red signs I've noticed in overexhausted people is constant dizziness and nausea. Whenever a person experiences a mental breakdown, this naturally manifests physically as well.
Hmm.
Um, hmm.
I don't know if I've ever. If I
I
nauseous, it was for something else.
I want to say I've experienced this, not the nauseousness, but I don't know about these specific signs, but physical symptoms when
Oh
I
yeah.
was really, really tired, either physically or mentally, definitely. I've definitely felt just blah, you know what I mean? And not just bad, but a stomach ache or I don't know, heartburn or something like that. When it's like, and then I think back because I'm like, okay, I haven't eaten anything that would normally give me heartburn. I haven't done anything. I haven't exhausted myself in any specific way. What's going on? And I think back to something going on, and I had definitely have gotten physically ill from being mentally taxed to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah. I also get I've broken out into hives being really anxious.
Ooh, mhm.
Um, I had discovered as an adult that I have asthma, and I was in kind of a tight space, and there was a very strong smell, and it wasn't very well ventilated, and so my throat started to close. And like people who grew up having asthma as kids, that's the scariest sensation in the world. But I had
Mhm.
never experienced it before, so I also started to panic. So like if so now whenever I smell something that I think is about to close my throat, I will like break out into hives. It's crazy.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how our mental and emotional health can so directly affect our physical health.
Yes.
It says, however, you should prevent it before it's too late. Take matters into your hands. If you don't, nobody will. Um, I feel like that could have been better advice.
Right.
Like stop and drink some water and take some Pepto Bismol or doing mental.
Call your doctor. Dizziness and nausea are can be symptoms of a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. The author might have dialed in the advice on that one just a teach.
Mid.
Yeah, a wee bit. Number 7, you feel like crying for no reason. Oh, so we coming for the wigs again.
Hmm. Oh, why are you in my business?
Yeah. Who invited you here?
It's
It
rude.
says, when you are in a bad place in life, it seems like the whole world plots against you. Your
Oh,
senses are heightened. You suddenly reach a hypersensitive state in which even the slightest joke could make your eyes sparkle with tears.
oh, oh, how rude.
Mm.
Rude.
So we're strumming our pain with the fingers again, singing our life with words.
Mm,
Um, so I'm real good for when I feel this way, isolating myself completely.
mm.
Like I will do what's necessary. I mean, I spend I spend a lot of time alone already,
Right. Me too.
but when I feel like this, I'm like, let me put this phone in this real good airplane mode. Let me make sure my MacBook is closed because they be trying to be cute and deliver messages anyway through the Wi-Fi when I have my phone off. And I just listen, isolate myself. I usually turn everything off, make it dark, get in the bed, put my little white noise sound on, and just wait to get some sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what it is that's bothering me, um, whenever I figure that out, because it does start off with you just feeling like crying for no reason, like you're just emotional for no reason. And then when I figure that out, I might cry it out a little bit, or I might just sleep it off. But I definitely can tell when I'm there.
Right.
And it's true about the senses being heightened. Not necessarily the senses being heightened, but I feel overly sensitive. Like I can read something on Twitter and be in my feelings, or I can see a couple on Instagram and I'm like, this normally never bothers me. I don't give a fuck what y'all do, who y'all love, who y'all laying down with, who y'all cheating on. Like none of that is my business.
And I'm sensitive. I'm a crier. I admit that. I reject that sensitivity in and of itself is a negative trait. So I usually have a lot to say when somebody says I'm too sensitive. Maybe they're too callous, and we don't come down on people as much seemingly for being too cold, but too sensitive is a problem. But when stuff like that, like things making me cry out the blue for no reason, or me getting just utterly offended by somebody just living their life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. It's like, how dare you?
Like, my friend has the nerve to have a life today.
How
I
dare
need,
they?
and then I'm like, oh, they don't like me. Everybody secretly hates me. Like, yeah, that's how I know that something else is going on with me.
Indeed. Indeed. It says, when we're exhausted, both physically and mentally, we pretty much lose the strength to cope with challenging situations, and regular day to day stress is intensified. The only mechanism our body and soul use for cleansing is crying.
Hmm.
I'm going to say that there's some truth in that. However, I think that a lot of people find a way, and when I say people, I'm mostly thinking of men right now, find a way to reroute that, and instead of crying it just manifests itself as unabashed anger,
Mm-hmm.
which is not good, is not healthy. I'm just making an observation right now because I've come across that where people, well, it's like a real angry ass dude and you just like, what are you so mad about?
Right. Why are you mad?
And when when they finally have that breakdown, and or somebody makes it safe for them and it's like, it's okay to cry,
Mm.
like Jody, it's okay.
Jody. I'm old. Trey from Boys in the Hood.
Yes, and then they finally have that cry and they back to being a normal person, and you just like, the power of tears. Like it's not always a weakness. Sometimes it's just what our body, or like the thing says, our soul needs in order to cleanse. Like we need to, I feel like there's more than just tears falling down your face. Like it's a physical embodiment of whatever it is that's bothering you coming out.
That's it.
Your mind letting it go, your emotions letting it go, and it comes out physically through those tears.
Yes.
And I promise you I'm not high. I'm just because I realize how that sounds. It's some real Buddhism or something, but no, I think there's scientific proof behind that. Like it's kind of how our bodies work.
It's like waste or excess or whatever.
Right. Like tears don't always have to mean you're weak or that you're hurt. It could just be your brain is processing and it needs a way to purge.
That's deep. I like that.
That's what I choose to believe. That's how I feel like my body works.
I'm way into it.
So the last one, number 8, says you start to feel detached, just like my wig.
Oh, number 1.
Listen, a lot of these, but this one's particular. It says after a while, you end up being, quote, comfortably numb. I you how did you get here? Nobody's supposed to be here. It says you don't feel bad nor good. You've gone senseless. It is the stage when you lose all hope. So please do not allow yourself to reach this point. Too late. I feel like this has been my 2018, to be honest.
This whole every one of these, except for maybe the dizziness and nausea, but replace that with this head congestion I've had.
Yeah. I feel like I've at some point, I feel like I've been in and out on all of these, except like you said for the dizzy and nausea, but the detachment has been the overarching theme for the majority, actually for the entirety of this year, maybe even some of last year. Matter of fact, because I remember talking to my therapist about it, being like, I just don't feel motivated by life. I don't know why I'm here. And I don't feel attached to anything. Like there are certain things that make me happy, my friends and my god kids and stuff like that. But overall, I'm like, for me personally, I don't I don't even feel attached to this physical form. I'm just like, what am I doing?
And it's a very dangerous place to be in, because then you isolate, and then all these other things start happening to put you further and further and further in the darkness.
Right, right. It says, when you feel even the slightest negative change in your well being, stop and relax. Take your time off, breathe out, and start healing your wounds. You can overcome anything life gives you. You just need to take care of yourself first.
Mm.
So while a lot of that is true, as usual with things like this, the how is missing. But at the same time, I feel like the how is different for each person.
Yes, totally.
But I would say definitely if you feel any of the things that I just described or what was described in this article as far as detachment, I would encourage you to find someone to talk to, whether it's a friend, a family member, if you are religious, a pastor or a counselor, if you have the resources, a therapist. But I definitely recommend talking to someone because it's in general, it usually does not get better on its own.
I used to open my DM for people on Twitter, just people I didn't even know, if you just needed somebody to talk to or whatever. I feel like very unqualified to do that these days, but legitimately, if you don't have nobody to talk to, I'll talk to you, or at least I'll listen.
Same, same. I don't know if I've ever put that out there, but if you just need someone to talk to, get some stuff off your chest, I feel like, yeah, slide into the DMs. Um, don't be on no weirdo shit because
Right.
we'll have to nip that in the bud. But I just need someone to talk to, someone to listen. I just need to vent because I feel like that is something that's very, very important. And sometimes we lose sight of the power of just venting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't even need a response sometimes. I just need to get it out. And once I get it out, my brain is clear and I can start focusing on solutions for whatever it is that I'm complaining about.
And because I'm everybody auntie, I will sometimes jump to offer unsolicited advice, but I've been trying to be better about, like, okay, do you want me to, like, talk you through this, or you
Yeah.
just want to talk?
Yeah. 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 So that's good. So these were 8 warning signs that you are mentally and emotionally, and given on which one of these is, probably even physically exhausted.
Mm,
And my final thought on this, and I'll throw it to you for the same, is we have to do better, and be consistent with taking care of ourselves. Because it's easy to take care of ourselves for a season and then let life creep back up, and then we fall out of whack again, and we start back at one.
mm-hmm.
So I think things would be a lot easier if we start holding ourselves and maybe others, if we have that kind of connection and agreement, to take care of yourself consistently.
Yes.
And that's
Also, I think people say this thing all the time, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So
mm,
it's just important, if you're the type of person who helps other people, to just make sure that you have the help that you need.
agreed. Agreed. So file this episode under mental health and self-care. Hopefully you guys got something out of it other than a wig snatch like we did. But you know what? Self-awareness is key.
Amen.
So with that being said, nicju, thank you so much for being on the show.
So much for having me. This was a blast. We'll have to do it again.
Yes, this was a good time and it was informative. I feel like we have done a good thing. We have done a service.
Yes.
So, with all that being said, tell people where they can find you and what's the tea.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at nicju, nicju. My co-host is R to the edgy, R number two THAEDGY, and our podcast Twitter is Good Day Saints. Please come check us out. What's the TTEA? And if you like us, say hi. We like when people say hi.
Yeah, do that. Get yourself a cup of tea, say hi, and we are out of here for this episode. All right, so that wraps up this episode of Gayside Stories. Remember, you can go to GaysideStories.com for more information. That is the hub. Email any questions or suggestions to GaysideStories@gmail.com. Go to Apple Podcasts, rate 5 stars. Thank you for listening. All of that good stuff. Real quick, I want to give an announcement. I'm probably going to be taking a little bit of a break for a few weeks. If you follow my personal Instagram or Twitter, or if we're connected on Facebook, then you've seen that I'm getting ready to relocate from Houston, Texas to the greater Seattle area. So I have a lot on my plate. I've had a lot on my plate, hence the late episode. And I'm going to take a few weeks to get settled and get myself ready and figure out where I'm going to be recording and all of that kind of stuff. But I should be back, like I said, in a few weeks, maybe before Christmas or so. And when I do, I'll come back with an episode and give a little bit more information about the move and whatnot. In the meantime, you guys can go over to the CSPN and listen to Ratchet Ramblings. Jeremy and Candace are holding it down while I'm on a break. Similar reason. And you can always go back and listen to old episodes of this show. You can still interact with me if you want to work together, if you want to be on my show, if you want me on your show, if you have a topic idea or a guest idea, someone that you know that might be good for the show. You can do any of that stuff. Like I said, reach out to me via the email or on my personal social media pages, whatever it takes. And that's it. So as always, you guys, make sure that you love yourself. And whether you're a top, bottom, verse, or one of the other roles that lies about being verse, which let me just add that it's not verse men's fault that bottoms or anybody else lies about being verse. It's them, not the verse dudes. But anyway, whatever you identify as, make sure you protect your walls or they will crumble. And I will see you guys in a few weeks.